Hello everyone, and welcome back to Blaster Toad's Game Academy, Class 101. Today we are going to deal with blueprint interactions. We're going to get things talking to each other. So what do we need for that? Well, let's set up some things to interact with. So we're going to go over to props. Here, a folder we made a little while ago. If props no longer exist for you, sometimes opening and closing a project will delete empty folders. So just right click under our blueprints tree, add a new folder for props. And we are going to do a couple things. So we want to do, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. Yes, okay. So under props, we want to do a new blueprint class, an actor. We're going to call this class underscore lighting. Okay. And then with class lighting, we are going to right click and create a child. And we want a lighting underscore street lamp. So we're going to make a street lamp. And then we want to right click, create child of lighting again. And we're going to call this lighting underscore lamp. We're going to make a street light and we're going to make a lamp. Cool. Then under items, let's not do under items. We want to do another under blueprints, a new folder. We're going to call this zone. Okay, so under zones, we are going to then right click, new blueprint class, a new actor, and we are going to call this zone underscore damage. Okay. Zone underscore damage. Cool. And then one last thing we're going to do then. What are we going to do? Items, and we are going to right click in items, new blueprint class, a new actor, and we're going to call this class underscore weapon. There we go. So this is how we're going to set things up. Let's deal with our zones first. So let's set up our player so that they can take some damage. So we're going to go to our character under player. And we're going to go to graphs. We're going to make a new graph for damage. Okay. And we are going to do a couple things. Actually, we're going to do nothing there. We do not want to do this on our player's body. We want to do this on our player's controller. Okay, so on our player controller, we're going to add a variable, and we're going to call this a variable health. Okay, so we just hit plus, we added health, and we're going to go over to details over here and make health a float. Compile and save, set a default value of 100 in there, 100 health, and then compile and save again. Perfect, that's all we need there. Now if we go back to our zone, we opened up damage zone. So in our damage zone, we want a couple things. We're going to go to components. We're going to get an overlap, not overlap, collision. And we want a box collision. Then we want to add a cone. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale down the cone, and scale I'm going to put to like 0.25 on everything. 0.25, 0.25, 0.4 for the Z, the height. And I'm going to Control C, and I'm going to Control V and move it off like that, and Control V and move it off like that. And then I'm going to Control and click a bunch of them, Control C, Control V, and them. Really? It didn't Didn't do it? Okay. It is not liking me here. It says it moved a bunch of them, but it didn't actually. So basically I'm just setting up some spikes. We're gonna Control C, Control V again, and move that on over there. And then our box, I'm gonna hit R, and I'm gonna scale it up some. I'm gonna move that up. Okay. Perfect. So if we're in that area, we are going to take damage. Compile and save. So with our box selected here, we can scroll down in our details panel, and we want to do a on component begin overlap right here. We drag this off to the side, on component begin overlap, and hit plus. It's going to make this nice little node for us. So when this gets overlapped, we're going to check if our player is overlapping it. It's not going to damage a car per se, but these spikes will damage a character. So there's a couple ways we can do that. I'm going to do it by casting to our player. So cast to character underscore player. And then we're going to plug in other actor to here. What it's saying is the thing that's in this box, the other actor, which is overlapping this, is it a character? Okay. And if it's a character, we want to continue. So we're going to pull off here, and we are going to get player controller, or if we pull off here, get controller. Perfect, that would work. And if we do it here, it will also work in multiplayer. We get controller like this. And we're going to pull off here, we're going to cast to PC underscore project 101. I'm going to plug that in like that. And we are going to get health, because remember we just made that health variable. And then we're going to pull off again, and we're going to set health. And then in between those, we want a minus, float minus float. And then just straighten everything off. And let's say it does 25 damage. You can step on a spike 4 times before you die. That is that. So it's saying, hey, is it of type character? If so, get the controller that's moving that character around, make sure it's the controller we want to use, and then reduce its health. The other thing we can do is we can hit print string and plug that in there. So it's going to tell us how much health the character has left. Okay. So the reason I'm doing it this way is getting the controller versus just get player controller is if this is a multiplayer spike, when someone steps on it, it gets that person's controller versus getting the controller connected to the computer that we're currently using. Okay. So this is the more accurate way to get it for multiplayer. And the other thing we're going to do, just in case we use this in multiplayer, is we're going to do an authority check. Switch has authority, and we're only going to do this on authority. So this means nothing to our single player setup, but it does mean things in multiplayer, which we're going to get to in another video or two. So now this spike is already set up for multiplayer. Cool. Okay, so we're going to damage our player or damage the controller if we step on the spike. So this is talking directly to the controller. Okay, and modifying things directly on the controller. So this would be a direct communication. So we pull this over, and we get our spikes out of the ground a bit. There we go. And then we're going to click on our controller. We are going to type in possess over here. We're going to auto possess to 0. Actually, we don't even need that. So we're going to put auto possess to off on all these things. And we are now going to go and set up our project for our character. Okay, so let's delete our character from the world. And we're going to then hit edit, project settings. And under maps and modes, instead of game mode base, we want to use the game mode we made. So we want GM_mode. Default pawns is going to be our character pawn. So character_player. Okay. And our player controller is going to be our PC_project101. So now if we hit play, we're going to spawn in as our character. Cool. And if we come over here and we walk on the spikes, not a good idea. Ouch, we're down to 50. Why did it hit us twice? Well, there is a little issue with our character right now. So let's go over to our character. So right now, when the capsule, the bubble here hits, it triggers an overlap. And when our box here hits, it also triggers an overlap. So that is no good. What we want to do is click on our box on the cube. We want to come down to collision presets. And we want to do a custom collision. And we want it to collide with visible. We want it to block visible thing. We want it to block camera. But we want it to ignore everything else. Okay. So now if we compile and save and hit play again, if we go step on our spikes, it should only take 25 damage and take us down to 75. Watch the corner. We only go down to 75 now. Woo. And then if we step it on again, 50 and 25 and blah, we should be dead. But we haven't set up death yet, so haha. We can just keep taking damage. So that is direct communications. We are talking directly to the controller and directly setting something with this type of interaction. Okay, this is two things interacting directly. Now let's get a little more indirect. So we're going to go over to our props where we made this lighting class. We go into lighting. We're going to do event dispatcher. And we want interact lights. Okay, so if we so when this gets a message interact lights, it can do something now. And we're going to compile and save. And we've got this event dispatcher, and we are going to then close our lighting. We're going to open up our lamp and our street lamp. So our lamp, we're going to open, and let's make ourselves a little lamp. So we're going to, in components, get a cylinder. I'm going to click the cylinder, hit R to scale it down. And we're going to add a cone. And we're just going to place our cone on top of our cylinder. Maybe scale it down just a tad. Like a lampshade. There we go. So we've got a lamp. And then we're going to add a light. And we're going to do a point light. And sure, we'll just leave it as its default. So we're going to compile and save. Now we're going to go to event graph and we're going to get rid of everything here. And we're going to do a begin play. So on begin play, we are going to find interact lights. Okay, so we're going to set something up to happen anytime we get that message, interact lights. And then we're going to right click down here. We're going to do a custom event. We're going to call it interact. And we're going to plug that in there. Okay. So the difference with this is that now instead of directly altering a variable, so directly saying, okay, take the health down, or we could say, okay, directly talk to the light and tell it to interact. Now we just have to send it a general message. So you say, okay, interact with the lights. And then on the lamp here, it's going to do one thing. So we're going to get our point lamp. And we're going to do flip-flop, point lamp, and we are going to set light color. And then we're going to again set light color. Okay, and we're just going to double click in here, set that to a blue light. And we're going to set that to a green light. Because our little town has no red light districts. Okay. Somebody's groaning at that poor joke, I know. So we're going to compile and save. And now we're going to go to our street lamp. A very similar thing on the event graph. We're going to get rid of some of that. We can pull off this begin play, or we can make a new begin play. We're going to bind event interact lights. And we are going to then do a custom event interact. And now we're going to leave that blank for a second. And we're going to start building our street lamp. Our street lamp, we're going to add a component. We're going to do a cylinder again. Going to scale our cylinder, and this time we're going to make it really tall. And we're going to move it up. Boom, just like that. And then we're going to add a cone again. I'm going to take that cone up and over. And then I'm going to hit E to rotate it. And then with cone selected, I'm going to add another cone. And on this cone, I'm going to hit R. So I'm going to come out here, select it, hit R to scale. I'm going to stretch it out like that. And then I want to make it wider. That. And I'm going to hit W to move it. Move it down like that. So now we kind of have like this light beam. See what we did there? Cool. File save, and then we're going to right click, or sorry, double click here, and we're going to call that beam. And then we're going to go to our event graph, and we're going to again do a flip-flop. Okay, so all a flip-flop is doing is say, hey, when you press this once, do A. When you press this again, do B. We're going to take our beam, we're going to pull it off here, and we're going to set visibility. And we're going to want visibility to false on the first time we hit it. On the second time, we are going to set visibility to beam. And I'm just going to pull that down, get rid of the second beam. And I'm going to set it to true next time. Okay, compile and save. And now let's go to set up our character. So on our character, we are going to do a new graph over here. We're going to do a graph for interact. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line from the front of our character and see if there's anything in front of it we can interact with. So we want to do a custom event, and we're going to call this interact tick. And on interact tick, we are going to take our camera, we're going to drag it out here. We are going to get forward vector. And we are going to get location, get world location. And then we're going to multiply this, so shift and 8 for asterisk, by a float. We're multiplying it by. And we're going to right click on the value here, and we're going to say promote to variable. This we're going to call interact distance. And this way we can change this easily without having to go find it in code every time, or in blueprints every time. Then we can pull off here, and we're going to add vector plus a vector, and we're going to add that. And then we're going to pull off our interact tick, and we are going to do a line trace by channel. So line trace by channel right there. And we want to get our start location is the camera's location. Our end location is our camera's location plus its forward direction times an amount of distance. And we're searching for visible things. Makes it nice and easy. Okay, and our interact distance, file save, and we're going to set our interact distance at something like 100 centimeters, so 1 meter? No, let's do it like 5 meters, so we don't have to get too close to things. And then just so we can see when we're hitting something, we're going to do this debug line on for 1 frame. We'll see a dot when we can interact with stuff. Now, off the end of this line trace, we're going to take this return value. This is telling us, did we hit something or did we not hit anything? We're going to do a branch. And a branch is a yes or no. So, did we hit something? Yes. Did we hit something? No. True or false? Yes or no. And then on our hit, we're going to pull off there, and we're going to break. Just like that. And then we are going to, if we hit something, have a new variable here. So we want to get hit actor. So this here, right click, promote to variable, and we're going to call it hit actor. And we're going to set true. So this is saving whatever we hit. Okay. And if false, we want to get hit actor, set, and false. And this will set it to nothing if we are not looking at anything. Okay. So we're going to select all this. We're going to hit C, comment it, double click to comment, and then we're going to say draw line from camera, save any hit object, clear hit object if nothing hit. Okay, so we're drawing a line from our camera, and if we hit something, we save that object. If we don't hit anything, if that's false, we clear it. Just like that. Okay, so previously in our movement episode, we set up an interact input. So now I want to use my interact input. So interact, action event. And when I press it, I'm going to do a check if something's valid. So I'm going to do an is valid. And I'm going to pull off our hit actor. So we're going to get our hit actor. I'm going to put into is valid. So is it something? Okay, and this is saying, hey, save something or set it to nothing. So is it something? And if it is something, we're going to cast to light. Or not cast to light, we want to cast to class underscore lighting. If it's valid. And then if it's of class lighting, so yes, class lighting, or if it failed, it's not lighting, then we want to do a interact lighting. Sorry, pull off here first. Interact lights. There we go. And we want to call interact lights. So we're sending it that message. Okay, so we're sending it a message, and then its children can do with that message as per they want. So now that we have that all set up, we can then go to our props and we can pull out a light or a lamp, and we can pull out a street light. Okay, and then we'll hit play. And now if we look at a street light, come on. Why are you not looking? Oh, because I did something silly. We're going to go back to our pawns and back to our character, where we just set up all this fancy stuff. We're going to go to the basic event graph, and on tick, we're going to do the interact tick. We didn't actually have it doing that line trace at all. We didn't actually have this happening. So now that that's happening, we should see, if we look at something, a little dot. Yay! If we go over here and we look at the street lamp and we hit our interact key, I set mine up as E, it turns it off, and then if I hit it again, it turns the light beam on, and so on and so forth. Woo! We're interacting over there. And then if I come over here and I hit my lamp, it's going to change to blue, it's going to change to green, and back and forth. There we are. We can't walk through that area because even though it doesn't show it as visible, there's still that light beam right there. We can't walk through it. We could set the collision of that to nothing if we wanted to. Then if I come walk on here, it still deducts health. Cool. Well, let's do one more type of interaction. Okay. So, I'm going to save, minimize all that, and we're going to go to shared. Okay, and under shared, we're going to make a new folder, and we are going to call this interfaces. And we're going to open up interfaces, we're going to right click, we're going to do blueprints down here. So not a blueprint class, we want blueprints down here, and we're going to do a new blueprint interface. And we're going to call this interface underscore interact. Now what this is, so the direct communication we did on our zone, this talks directly to something. So in this case, it's telling the controller take damage. Messages or functions on a parent tell a type of thing to do something. So if we have a bunch of things that are of a similar type, so in this case we have lighting. All lighting are of a similar type, they can all listen to the message interact lights, and they can all work with that. Okay, so the messaging or event dispatchers, as they're called, are good for getting a group of things or a similar type of things working, okay, then we can talk to a similar type of things. An interface, a blueprint interface, so as we can talk to drastically different things. Okay, so with our blueprint interface, we're going to double click on it, and we are going to give it a new thing, and we're going to call it interact. Okay, it has a function interact, and that is it. We're going to compile and save, and that is it for our interface. That is all it needs to do. It is having this option is all it does. So now let's make another prop, and we're going to do a new blueprint class. We're going to do a new actor, and we're going to call this class underscore door. Okay, and in our class underscore door, we are going to add a component. We're going to add an arrow, and we're going to name it hinge, and then attach to the arrow. So we're going to click the arrow, and we are going to then add a component. We're going to add a cube. And then I'm going to click on our cube. I'm going to hit R to scale it. Like that, and like that, and like that. That looks somewhat door-shaped, and then we're going to move it up. And we're going to move it so that the corner is on the hinge. Okay, this arrow is our hinge, and our corner is on it. I'm going to compile and save. And then on our events, we can get rid of all this. Okay, we're going to hit class defaults. No, we're not. We're going to hit class settings. Sorry. And under interfaces, we are going to add interact. So interface, interact, right there. We're going to compile and save again. If we do not compile and save here, this next step will not work for you. We're going to right click. We're going to type in interact. So we have a event interact now, and that comes from our interface. So you see an interface event right there. And then when we get this here, interact, we are going to flip-flop. And then we are going to get our hinge. We're going to pull hinge out here. We are going to add rotation. Going to add relative, yes, add relative rotation on the z-axis because we're turning it around its top, 90. And then we're going to Control C, Control V, do the same thing, but we want to add negative 90. Okay, so if we interact with our door, it's going to turn the hinge 90 degrees out and then 90 degrees in. We're going to compile and save. Okay, and now let's go to our pawn and our class underscore vehicle. And we are going to, under class underscore vehicle, we want to do a new graph. We want to call this possession. Okay. And we're going to right click in here. Oh, first we have to go class settings. Add an interface. We are going to do interact. So interface underscore interact. File. Save. And then we want that event interact again. So event interact. Right there. And we will get controller. We'll get player controller. Okay, this will not work in multiplayer. Okay, this is a local setup only. So get player controller. And then we want to right click out here, Possess. We don't want an event possessed. We want to tell it to possess. So we're going to unclick here. We're going to do possess. Just like that. And our target is our player controller. And our pawn, we're going to pull off and we're going to type in self. We're going to get reference to self right there. Because the car is telling it to possess self. Okay? Before we possess the car, we want to get controlled pawn right there. And we can click this context box again. So we, oh, actually no. So get controlled pawn. And then we want to pull off here and we want to destroy. And then we're going to do destroy actor, just like that. Okay. So now if we interact with our car, we're going to destroy whatever our controller is currently controlling, which will be our character. And then we want to possess the car. So we're going to compile and save. And let's pull our door out here. So we've got two very different things that we can interact with. We've got a door and a car, and both of them listen to interact. Oh, one last thing we have to do. We're going to go to our character player. And on our interact event, when we press our interact key, if it's lighting, it does the lighting message. But if it is not lighting, we want to get our hit actor. So we're going to pull off here and we're going to interact. We're going to send it the interact message like that. So it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't care. It's not going to look, oh, is this of type lighting? Is this of type car? At this point, it's just throwing out a message and seeing if it sits. Or if it hits, sorry. So it's like, okay, you can have an interact. You can have an interact. You can have an interact. It's like the Oprah of blueprints. And then if the hit actor is listening for interact, so in this case, whether it's a door or a car, it's going to do whatever it does as a door or a car. So let's go over so we can turn our light on and off. We can switch our light's colors. We can go over here, we can hit our door, which will open for us or close for us. And we can go over to our car and control our car. And there we go. That is blueprint interactions. So again, we can communicate directly with something and tell a specific thing to do something. So in our case, if we open up zone, we'll take a look at it again. In this case, we got our controller of whatever player hit it. And then on that controller, we told it to deduct health. Okay, so that is, we're talking directly to the controller and telling it to do something. Then for our next example, we sent a message to a group of things. So we had this lighting class that was told, hey, you can interact with things. And then if it was a lamp, it did one thing with that message. If it was a street lamp, it did a different thing with that message. Okay, so we can tell a group of things to do stuff. However, if we want drastically different things to talk to each other, so if we want a vehicle and a door to both interact, well, then we've got this interaction interface where we can call that function on whatever is implementing that interface. So that is that. Thank you for your time. I hope you've learned lots. This has been a 40-minute video. We're just coming up on it, but we did look at 3 different types of interaction and how to do a line trace. So we went over quite a bit. So thank you for your time. If you've been liking the series so far, please let me know what you've liked about it. If you've been not quite following along or having a hard time or disliked how I'm going about any of this, please let me know that I can make these videos better. So If you're going to leave me a dislike there, please let me know why. It's very important to me so that I can make these videos better and do things differently in the future. Okay, so I'll save our test level. There we go, and next time we're going to start looking at very, very, very basic multiplayer and how to set it up, okay? So that will be our next kind of task in the series. So whether that takes a video or a couple videos, that will be what we're looking at. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time when we start dealing with multiplayer. Goodbye for now.